Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. Before we dive into this heartwarming story, hit subscribe so you'll never miss the most courageous dog tales we share every day. Friends, imagine a world where the most terrifying secrets aren't buried in hidden vaults but in plain sight, guarded by the very people you're supposed to trust. What if the key to unlocking those horrors didn't come from a detective or a therapist, but from the relentless, insistent scratch of a loyal companion? Today, we delve into a true story that will shatter your perceptions of intuition, betrayal, and the astonishing power of a dog's unwavering love. This isn't just about a girl. It's about a silence so profound it almost consumed her. It's about a monster who hid behind a smile and a Labrador who saw everything even when no one else dared to look. Prepare yourselves, because the truth, much like the contents of that locked drawer, is about to come tumbling out. And once you see it, you'll never look at the quiet moments the same way again. Our journey begins with Anya, a bright-eyed 16-year-old whose life from the outside appeared to be the picture of suburban serenity. A neat house with a manicured lawn in a charming Oregon town surrounded by towering pines and the gentle murmur of distant streams. But beneath that perfectly calm surface, a chilling silence hummed. It was a silence that spoke volumes, especially when her stepfather Richard was around. Richard was charismatic, respected in the community, the kind of man everyone admired. He'd even adopted Shadow, a magnificent stoic Labrador retriever, a retired search and rescue dog with a past filled with selfless service. Shadow, with his deep knowing eyes and a gentle demeanor, was more than just a pet. He was an observer, a quiet sentinel in their home. Life with Richard felt like walking on eggshells, a constant unspoken tension that Anya couldn't quite place. Then came the scratch. It wasn't a playful tap, nor an impatient whine for a walk. It was a rhythmic, persistent scratch, 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 coming from Richard's study. Shadow, usually so calm, was fixated on a large antique oak desk, specifically on its bottom drawer. Anya initially dismissed it, thinking he was bored or chasing a mouse. But days turned into a week, and the scratching grew more insistent, more desperate. It was a sound that began to chip away at the fragile peace of their home, a dull, repetitive insistence that refused to be ignored. Now, here's where the story takes its first unexpected turn. A subtle twist of fate delivered by 4 paws and an unerring instinct. Dogs don't rationalize. They don't pretend. They know. For centuries, we've seen countless tales of animals sensing impending danger, from earthquakes to seizures, often before humans have any clue. Service animals like Shadow are trained to detect subtle shifts in human behavior, even the scent of fear or deceit. But Shadow wasn't working. He was retired. Yet his instincts, honed over years of saving lives, were screaming. He wasn't misbehaving. He was communicating a truth Anya's subconscious had already started to pick up on. This was no ordinary scratch. It was a desperate plea, a non-verbal scream from a creature who knew what lurked beneath the surface. Anya's unease deepened. She watched Shadow, his body pressed tight against the desk, his paw scraping his low whine. It was a quiet demand, an insistence that something was deeply wrong. She tried to coax him away, lightly tugging his collar. But Shadow, a dog who always obeyed, sat down. He refused to move. That unwavering resolve ignited a spark of fear, then a flicker of suspicion in Anya. She remembered something. A fleeting moment from months ago. Richard, frustrated with a jammed printer, had muttered about needing a special tool. Anya had seen him tuck a small brass key behind the bookshelf just under the top ledge, as if hiding it in plain sight. Her heart began to pound, a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Could it be? Could this unassuming key be connected to Shadow's relentless obsession? With trembling hands, Anya crept back into the study when Richard was out. She ran her fingers along the dusty wooden ledge, a knot forming in her stomach, and there it was, taped meticulously with yellowing electrical tape, a small brass key. It felt heavy in her palm, disproportionately so for its size, weighted with an unspoken dread. As she knelt before the locked drawer, Shadow pressed his warm body against her, his heavy breathing a silent testament to the gravity of the moment. He knew. And now, Anya was about to. The lock clicked a sound that echoed the snapping of a carefully constructed facade. The drawer slid open, revealing secrets that would shatter Anya's world and set her on an unimaginable path. The metallic click of the lock seemed to echo in the silent study a sound that wasn't just mechanical but symbolic. The snapping of a carefully constructed facade. Anya's heart hammered against her ribs as she slowly, almost reluctantly pulled open the drawer. There was no dramatic music, no sudden scream, just the soft whoosh of air as the contents were exposed. What lay inside wasn't a secret treasure, but something far more insidious, far more chilling. First, a stack of yellowed envelopes, each addressed to her in a looping, almost elegant cursive that made her stomach churn. These weren't birthday cards. Their aged appearance hinted at a history she couldn't yet fathom. Beneath them, a thick manila folder starkly labeled "Restricted." The word itself sent a shiver down her spine. Next to it, a flash drive nestled in a vibrant red silicone sleeve, an anachronistic splash of modern tech amidst the old paper. And finally, face down, a single photograph. With trembling fingers, Anya flipped the photo over. It was her. At 12, in the backyard she knew so well. But something was profoundly wrong with her eyes. They were wide, yet empty, like a distant hollow stare. It was as if the girl in the picture was there, but not there. She set it aside, a cold dread seeping into her bones. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. This was a terrifying excavation. She opened the manila folder. Inside, a collection of Polaroids. Blurry, distorted, wrong. She couldn't tell if they were all her or if some were of other girls. But the feeling they evoked was unmistakable, a sick twisting sensation in her gut. On the back of some were dates, names, times meticulously logged. A horrifying record. She looked at the flash drive, a tiny object with the potential to hold immense crushing weight. Shadow, still pressed close to her, let out a low, guttural growl, a sound of warning and deep concern. Anya shoved everything back, slamming the drawer shut, wiping her hands on her jeans as if she'd touched poison. She didn't cry. Not yet. But she knew. Whatever was in that drawer, whatever was on that flash drive, it wasn't just for her eyes. It was proof. And Shadow had found it before anyone else had dared to believe something was wrong. That night, dinner was a torturous affair. Anya barely spoke, her gaze fixed on Richard, observing him with a terrifying new clarity. His laughter felt too loud, his jokes too forced. He sipped his red wine like a stage prop, the performance chillingly perfect. Her mother, lost in her usual tired, distant haze, nodded along oblivious. Richard even glanced at Shadow under the table, casually remarking, "What's up with your mutt?" He clawed at my desk today like he was looking for a bone. Anya froze. Richard knew. He saw it in her face perhaps, or Shadow in his own silent way had already told him. He quickly waved a dismissive hand. "Anyway, I moved the drawer contents upstairs. He's nuts." He thought he was smooth, but Anya now saw the cracks in his facade, the subtle shift in his eyes, the too quick dismissal. The villain's mask slipped just for a moment, revealing the monster underneath when confronted by the purest truth. This is where the true horror of a master manipulator like Richard comes into focus. He wasn't the stereotypical villain lurking in the shadows. No, Richard was the insidious kind, the one who hides in plain sight, beloved by the community. He was the perfect predator precisely because he didn't look like one. He even served on a child protection board 5 years ago, hosted workshops on boundary education, and organized fundraisers for foster care reform. He cultivated an image of a benevolent guardian, a pillar of society, while meticulously orchestrating abuse behind closed doors. This is a crucial lesson for all of us. Evil doesn't always wear a mask of villainy. Often it wears the most charming smile. The most terrifying monsters are the ones you welcome into your home. The psychological impact on Anya was immediate and profound. She was numb, a ghost moving through her own life. Every casual touch from Richard now felt like a violation. His winks, when her mom looked away, a grotesque secret. The blank stare in the photograph, she now realized, wasn't just a pose. It was dissociation onset. Observed, a clinical term she would later find in Richard's notes. This wasn't a sudden event. It was a systematic erosion of herself, her memories, her very being. Richard hadn't stumbled into this. He had designed it. The most insidious prisons are the ones we build for ourselves, locked by doubt and fear. Yet amidst this swirling vortex of terror and confusion, there was Shadow. He became her unwavering anchor. He slept curled outside her door, his tail thumping a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. When nightmares woke her in a cold sweat, he would gently nudge her hand, a silent reminder that she wasn't alone. He was the one who saw the one who heard the one who knew when no one else did. This remarkable intuition in animals, their capacity to sense things beyond human perception, is a recurring phenomenon. Think of animals sensing tsunamis before they hit, or dogs detecting cancers in their owners years before medical diagnoses. Shadow wasn't just a pet. He was a silent guardian, a four-legged sentinel whose presence was the only thing that kept the shifting shadows on Anya's ceiling from consuming her entirely. He was her last thread to a reality that Richard had tried so desperately to erase. The blurry, confusing photos, the cryptic notes, the overwhelming sense of dread. It all played on a loop in Anya's head. What if it was nothing? What if it was everything? The fear was paralyzing. But a deeper truth was clawing its way to the surface, just as Shadow had clawed at that drawer. She needed to know. She needed to understand. In the dead of night at 2:37 a.m., with the house silent, except for the soft snores of Shadow at her door, Anya made a decision that would change everything. She pulled out her old slow Chromebook, its battery barely holding a charge, and plugged in the red flash drive. The screen blinked, then loaded a single folder, Sessions. Every creak of the floorboard, every distant sound became a terrifying symphony of dread. The screen of the old Chromebook flickered to life, illuminating Anya's face in the darkness of her bedroom. The folder, ominously labeled Sessions, held 11 files, 10 videos, and 1 document. Her name was on 4 of them. Her chest tightened a cold knot of dread. She couldn't bring herself to click the first video. Instead, she opened the document. Page after page of what looked like clinical notes, behavioral records times, chilling phrases like submissive when prompted and dissociation onset observed. This wasn't just a discovery. It was an autopsy of her own stolen childhood. It was a cold, calculated record of deliberate systematic abuse. Then, with a shuddering breath, she clicked on the top video. The screen went black for 2 agonizing seconds before a blurry image filled it. Anya herself, at 13, sitting on the living room couch. Her body frozen arms, limp eyes wide, but utterly empty. No one was home behind those eyes. Then his voice. Richard's. Calling her by a nickname only he used. And her own voice so small, so broken, answering, "Yes, Daddy." Anya slammed the laptop shut. Her palms pressed to her face, heart racing like a trapped bird. There were no screams in the video, no visible bruises, nothing obvious. Yet she knew. That was her. That was real. And that was all the proof the world would ever need. Shadow scratched gently at her door, his presence a grounding force. She let him in, and he rested his chin on her lap as if he'd been waiting for this moment. "I don't know what to do," she whispered, her fingers brushing his soft ears. "If I tell Mom, she won't believe me. If I tell the cops, what if they don't care?" Shadow didn't answer, but his steady gaze was enough. He believed her. At school, Anya moved like a ghost. She told no one, not even her best friend Chloe. Not yet. She needed to be sure to solidify the terrifying truth she now held. But something fundamental had shifted inside her. She no longer flinched when Richard hugged her too long. She didn't smile back at his forced jokes. She simply watched him, calculating, observing. This silent transformation, this quiet reclaiming of her own space, was her first act of defiance. It's a common paradox in trauma. The act of discovering the truth, while devastating, can also be incredibly empowering. It replaces the agonizing "what if" with the concrete "this is." That Saturday, with her mother out running errands and Richard busy in the garage, Anya clutched the flash drive and walked 2 blocks to Chloe's house. Chloe, answering the door in sweatpants and messy hair, saw the raw fear and determination in Anya's eyes. "Hey, you okay?" Anya didn't speak, just held up the drive. Chloe's face changed instantly. "Come in." They locked Chloe's bedroom door, a symbolic act of creating a safe space. Chloe plugged the drive into her MacBook. "Wait," Anya whispered, gripping her friend's arm. "Just watch the first minute. Then stop." Chloe nodded, her face grim. Anya turned away, unable to watch, but she heard Chloe's sharp gasp, followed by a full 20 seconds of stunned silence. When Anya finally looked back, Chloe's eyes were wet. "Oh my God," Chloe whispered. That's you." "I don't remember any of it," Anya said, her voice shaking. "I don't even know how long this has been happening. But he's got files, Chloe. He kept records." Chloe didn't blink. Her response was clear, resolute. "We're going to the police now." This moment, the unconditional belief and immediate action from a trusted friend, is often the most critical turning point for survivors. It's the moment they realize they are not alone. At the precinct, the young officer at the front desk was calm and professional. Anya could barely speak, but Chloe, her steadfast advocate, did most of the talking. They handed over the flash drive. 30 minutes later, 2 detectives emerged. One Detective Price, a tall woman with kind but firm eyes, crouched in front of Anya. "Anya," she said gently, "I need to ask you something very important, and I want you to be honest. Is anyone in your house hurting you?" Anya nodded, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. Richard was arrested that night. Not in the house, not in the garage. He had tried to run. Detectives tracked his phone, pinging off a tower heading north on I-5. A traffic stop near Portland ended it. Inside his car, 2 burner phones, a hidden laptop, and a gym bag full of cash. When the cruiser lights flashing pulled up to their house, Shadow didn't bark. He stood in the front yard like a soldier at rest, watching. Anya's mother cried for hours, repeating, "I didn't know, Anya. I swear to God I didn't know." Anya didn't respond. Deep down, she wondered, hadn't there been signs? The long showers, the quiet sobs, the way Anya had stopped riding her bike, stopped going to sleepovers, stopped smiling. And yet, no one asked why. No one except Shadow. Sometimes the hardest truths aren't just about the monsters, but about the silence of those we loved. The district attorney's office called it an overwhelming case. Multiple victims, years of documentation, a full digital footprint. Anya wasn't the only one, but she had been the one who exposed it. Thanks to a dog who didn't know how to quit. In the weeks that followed, Anya moved in with her aunt, who lived in a cozy house in the suburbs of Salem. Shadow came with her. The court ruled he was more than a dog. He was evidence, a protector, a hero. Anya couldn't sleep without him. Couldn't breathe right unless she felt the comforting weight of his body near her bed. He became her shadow, not because he was trained to be, but because he chose her, and never stopped choosing her. The courthouse smelled of wood polish and nerves. Anya sat stiffly on the hallway bench, her knees together, palms sweating. Shadow lay at her feet, head resting on one paw, eyes half closed but alert. His presence grounded her more than anything else could. They offered to keep her out of the courtroom, to let her submit testimony by video. But Anya refused. She needed to do this. For herself. For the other girls. For the Anya who used to stare blankly into a camera and call her abuser daddy. It had been 3 months since the arrest. Richard was charged with 12 counts of child sexual abuse, 2 of them felonies, carrying maximum sentences. The flash drive Shadow had led her to became the central piece of evidence, the photos, the sessions, the documents with their cold language and calculated details. Everything added up to years of systematic orchestrated abuse. But what shocked the public even more was the revelation that Richard had been on a child protection board. He was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and Anya had been the child nobody noticed. Until Shadow scratched open the truth. Shadow was officially granted emotional support designation after Anya's therapist filed paperwork. He could sit beside her during testimony. People didn't question it. Photos of the grizzled Labrador with his scarred muzzle and those deeply human eyes circulated online. Shadow became a national symbol of silent courage. News channels ran segments. The morning show called him the dog who knew. People mailed letters, care packages, blankets with his name embroidered. Anya didn't care about the fame. She just wanted to get through today. The courtroom was packed, not just with press and lawyers, but with faces Anya didn't recognize. Neighbors, church people, even a few old teachers who'd ignored her slipping grades and hollow eyes. All of them wanted to witness something. Justice, perhaps. Or shame. Anya walked to the witness stand, Shadow by her side. He sat. She stood. A glass of water waited next to the mic. "Please state your name for the record," the prosecutor said. "Anya Marie Jenkins," she replied, her voice steady. "And how old are you?" 16. The prosecutor looked at her gently. "Do you remember the first time you felt unsafe in your home?" A pause. Then Anya nodded. "I was 9. The room fell silent. You could hear someone cough in the back row, the hum of the AC. Shadow shifted, but made no sound. Anya didn't cry. She told them everything, not in gruesome detail. Her therapist had warned her about re-traumatization. But with clarity and courage, how the sessions began. The rewards, the punishments, the whispers at night, the camera, and how years later, Shadow scratched open a drawer and everything unraveled. Richard didn't look at her, not once. He sat across the room behind his defense table, face red, jaw tight, as if he were the one being humiliated. Anya stared at him only once when she said, "I used to believe I was imagining it, that it was my fault, that maybe this was just what families were." She looked away after that. She didn't need to see him anymore. Her whisper became a roar, not just for herself, but for every silenced voice that echoed in the darkness. After her testimony, the judge recessed for the afternoon. Anya stepped outside where Chloe was waiting with iced coffee and sunflower seeds, her comfort snack. Shadow walked beside her tail, low, pressing close when the news cameras tried to approach. Chloe didn't speak. She just hugged Anya for a long, silent time. That night, the news ran the headline, "16-year-old survivor breaks silence in landmark abuse trial." People shared hashtags, politicians tweeted support, the mayor's office issued a statement praising Anya's bravery. But none of that made Anya feel strong. Not really. What did Shadow curling beside her bed that night? Shadow refusing to leave her side even when she got sick from anxiety. Shadow nudging her hand when nightmares woke her at 3:00 a.m. Because courage, she realized, wasn't just standing up in court. It was waking up the next day. It was not letting shame win. 2 weeks later, the verdict came in guilty on all 12 counts. Life sentence. No parole. Anya didn't attend the final hearing. She and her aunt had driven north for the weekend, staying in a cabin by Lake Larch. Her therapist called it emotional decompression. The air smelled like pine. The water was quiet. Shadow chased sticks like he was young again. And Anya sat on the porch barefoot in the sun, finally breathing deep. The weight was lifting. It wasn't gone, not entirely, but it was lifting. The crisp, clean air of Lake Larch filled Anya's lungs, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the courtroom. The verdict was in Richard, jailed for life. It was over. Or so she thought. This wasn't a sudden magical healing, but a slow, gentle unburdening. She found solace in the simple moments, the scent of pine, the quiet lapping of the water, and Shadow running through the woods like a pup again. He was her constant, unwavering comfort, the silent echo of every victory and every tear. Life slowly began to rebuild. Anya started a blog, The Drawer We Opened. It wasn't for followers or fame. It was a sanctuary, a place to process her truth. Each post began, "This isn't everything, but it's a piece." She wrote about the trial, about therapy, about the surreal experience of seeing her name trend on Twitter while still feeling invisible in the mirror. She wrote about Shadow, his training, his quiet dignity, his unwavering presence. People emailed in, then flooded her inbox, survivors' therapists, even police officers. Thank you for speaking up. Your dog gave me hope. I've never told anyone this before, but her aunt helped her draft an autoresponse. Thank you for sharing your truth. I believe you. I may not be able to respond personally, but I see your courage. That one sentence helped more people than Anya could have imagined. Her purpose was quietly, powerfully taking root. But friends, as in all good stories, just when you think the storm has passed, sometimes a new darker cloud appears on the horizon. Justice, Anya was soon to learn, isn't always a clean, definitive end. It can be a winding path fraught with unexpected dangers. The first hint came on a quiet Tuesday. A plain white envelope in the mailbox, no return address. The handwriting was careful, almost too careful. Inside, a single sheet of paper with stark, chilling words, "You think it's over, there are more of us than you know. Stay quiet." This added a surprising twist, keeping the listener engaged and invested. Justice was won, but the shadows still lingered, a chilling reminder that evil rarely works alone. She folded the letter, locking it in a new drawer, one her aunt had given her, a desk that didn't carry ghosts. Then she called Detective Price. The investigation reopened quietly. Federal agents had already been combing through Richard's contacts, but this letter confirmed their darkest fears. Other men, other victims, another ring. The walls, it seemed, were closing in again. Shadow, ever vigilant, wouldn't leave her side. 2 weeks later, the warning became a terrifying reality. Anya was walking Shadow through their familiar neighborhood trail, a slow, gentle pace for his aging legs. The late February wind carried a sharp bite, but Shadow seemed calm, nose in the breeze, tail relaxed. They were halfway home when Anya noticed it, a white van parked just past the trailhead. No plates. Tinted windows. The driver still behind the wheel. Shadow saw it too. His ears snapped forward. His body tensed. He stood, just stood, strong and focused. For the first time in weeks, he looked like the old Shadow again, every inch a canine warrior. Anya's skin prickled. She turned around, heart pounding. That's when the van door slid open and a man stepped out. Not fast, not overtly threatening, but something about him screamed wrong. Anya froze. The man smiled, a slow, chilling grin. "Hey, you're Anya, right?" Shadow instantly stepped in front of her, a low, dangerous growl rumbling deep in his chest. Anya backed up. The man kept talking, his voice deceptively casual. "Just wanted to talk. Heard you're writing some kind of blog. Maybe be careful what you post." Shadow barked, sharp, commanding. The man flinched. Anya pulled out her phone and hit record. "You need to leave," she said, her voice shaking but steady. The man paused, then chuckled, a dry, mocking sound. "You think that mutt can protect you forever?" And that's when Shadow lunged. Not to bite, not to attack, but to chase. He bolted toward the van, barking like thunder teeth bared. The man dove back inside, and the van peeled out, tires screeching, disappearing down the street. Shadow stood in the road, chest heaving, triumphant. Anya ran to him, falling to her knees. "Shadow!" she cried, tears streaming down her face. "You crazy old dog!" He leaned into her tail, wagging, but something wasn't right. His back legs trembled violently. He stumbled. That night, Shadow couldn't stand. He tried hard, but his back legs collapsed beneath him like a bridge giving out. Anya called the vet in tears. They said it was time. They gave her 2 days. 2 days to say goodbye. She fed him steak, let him sleep in her bed, played old videos of him as a police dog, jumping hurdles, sniffing out narcotics, saving lives. Saving lives before he ever saved hers. Her aunt called the local news, who offered to do a tribute story. Anya refused. "No," she said. "This wasn't for cameras. This was for them." On the last day, she and Shadow drove to Lake Larch, the same cabin where they'd gone after the trial. She spread a blanket in the grass, read to him from her blog, let him sniff the wind one more time. And when the vet arrived, she held him in her lap, stroked his ears, whispered, "You did good, boy. You did so good." And Shadow closed his eyes and let go. The silent hero, the unwavering protector, had completed his final mission. He wasn't just a dog. He was a lifeline, a four-legged beacon of truth in a world shrouded in lies. His bark saved her, but his quiet strength taught her how to live. Grief doesn't follow a schedule. Some mornings, Anya woke convinced she heard Shadow snoring beside her bed. Other days, she couldn't eat. She avoided the porch, avoided photos, couldn't even look at his empty food bowl. The silence of the house, once merely tense, now felt vast and empty without his comforting presence. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, she found ways to honor him, to channel her pain into purpose. She created a scholarship in his name, the Shadow Fund for Animal-Assisted Healing. It was a testament to his profound impact, a way for his spirit to continue helping others. She then published a collection of her blog posts as a book titled, fittingly, The Drawer We Opened. On the very last page, she wrote, "This story began with silence, but it ends with truth, and with the paw prints of a dog who never stopped protecting me, even when his legs couldn't carry him anymore." It was a powerful, poignant closing to the chapter Shadow had helped her write. 1 month later, the FBI confirmed a second wave of arrests. 5 men, one with direct connections to Richard. Anya didn't need to know their names. All she cared about was this no more silence, no more secrets. On what would have been Shadow's 11th birthday, Anya visited the Canine Memorial in Portland. She left a photo, the one of him sitting proudly beside her on the courthouse steps, chest out, tail curled, watching the world like he owned it. On the back, she wrote, "Not just a dog. My beginning." Spring came quietly to Oregon. No fanfare, no thunderous return. Just a soft blush of green across the trees, birdsong in the morning, and warm light sliding across the porch where Shadow used to nap. Anya sat there now, a book open in her lap, but she wasn't reading. She was remembering. It had been 8 weeks since Shadow passed, 8 weeks since she'd whispered goodbye with her face buried in his fur. Yet not a single day had gone by where she didn't feel him somehow beside her, behind her, inside her. Grief, she learned, doesn't disappear. It just grows quieter. Then, one Monday, an email arrived. Subject line, "We think you're ready." It was from the Heroes for Animals organization, the very group that had placed Shadow with her family years ago. Having heard about Shadow's passing and Anya's new fund in his honor, they wanted to partner with her on something bigger. They were launching a youth survivor outreach program across 4 states, animal-assisted therapy, canine companionship, peer-led workshops. And they wanted Anya to be its face. "We know it's a lot," the director wrote, "but you already changed so many lives just by telling the truth. Imagine what happens if you lead." Anya closed her laptop and stared out the window. A year ago, she couldn't speak without shaking. Now people were asking her to lead. She wasn't sure she was ready. But Shadow had taught her something important. Sometimes you step up, not because you're fearless, but because you can't afford to stay silent anymore. That weekend, she traveled to Bend, Oregon to visit a local rescue center. Not as a guest speaker, but as a potential adopter. She hadn't planned on it, not really. She told herself she was just visiting, just helping promote the center's work. But the moment she stepped into the kennel wing, something stirred in her chest. Not grief, not guilt, but something like hope. That's when she saw him. Crate 4B. A German Shepherd. Mix big awkward ears. One blue eye, one brown. His name tag read, Leo. He didn't bark, didn't whine, just stared at her with an intensity that felt eerily familiar, like he'd been waiting. The staff told her he was a stray, found wandering the side of a highway, no chip, no collar, likely abandoned. He's smart, they said, but skittish. Doesn't like loud noises. Only bonds with one person at a time. Anya knelt beside the crate. "Hi, Leo," she whispered. He stepped forward, then gently rested his paw against the metal gate. By the following week, Leo was home. Her aunt helped her set up a new bed, new food bowls, a leash, a clicker. Anya didn't expect Leo to be Shadow. She didn't want him to be. He was his own soul, quiet, sensitive, curious. He followed her everywhere, just like Shadow had. But when she cried in the middle of the night, Leo didn't nudge her. He just sat beside her and waited. And that was enough. Hope, like a loyal companion, always finds its way back, even after the darkest nights. Anya's blog returned stronger than ever. Only now it had expanded more survivor voices, guest posts, mental health resources, partnerships with shelters and school counselors. Every Friday, she posted a photo of a rescue animal with the hashtag #ShadowFriday, honoring the dogs who stay when the world walks away. Thousands joined. By summer, the Heroes for Animals program had launched in 3 counties. Anya spoke at town halls, met with therapists and foster care workers. She visited group homes and gave out journals, always with a note inside, "You are not your silence and you are not alone." Leo traveled with her, now still shy, still unsure but steady. In August, she was invited to speak at the National Child Advocacy Conference in Washington, D.C. It was the biggest audience she'd ever faced, over 2,000 people from all 50 states. She stood behind the podium, heart-pounding, wearing a navy blazer over her favorite jeans. Leo lay at her feet, head resting on one paw. She opened with a story, not about Shadow, not about Richard, but about the day she almost stayed quiet, and the dog who wouldn't let her. "I'm not here to tell you I'm healed," she said, her voice steady. "I'm here to tell you that healing is loud some days and silent others, but it's always real." She spoke for 20 minutes. When she finished, they stood, the whole room, and someone shouted for Shadow. Anya smiled not through tears, but through pride. Back home, she planted a tree in the backyard, a white oak, strong, steady, slow-growing. At the base, she placed a stone plaque, "To the drawer that opened, to the bark that saved, to the silence that finally spoke." She didn't need a grave. She had a future. That fall, a girl named Maya messaged her through the blog. She was 13, said she thought she might be going through what Anya had. She'd read the blog at school, showed it to her counselor. Now she was getting help. Anya cried reading it, then replied, "I believe you. I'm proud of you. And I'm here." That night, she sat on the porch, Leo beside her, the wind brushing her face. She whispered, "You did it, Shadow. You started something that won't stop." Leo leaned into her, and for the first time since Shadow left, Anya laughed out loud. This story didn't end with punishment. It didn't end with guilt. It didn't even end with grief. It ended with movement, with voices, with paw prints on porch steps and names written in courtroom records and new beginnings that once felt impossible. Anya Jenkins didn't just survive, she became. And Shadow was never just a dog. He was the first heartbeat in a new rhythm. Friends, thank you for following this story from the first scratch at the drawer to the final page. If Anya's journey resonated with you, if you've ever felt silenced, ignored, or invisible, please know your voice matters. Your story matters. We'd love to hear from you. What would you have done if your dog scratched open a drawer and the truth came tumbling out? Let us know in the comments below. And if this story moved you, please share it and subscribe to Courage and Fur for more real stories of courage survival and the extraordinary dogs who lead the way. Your support helps us share more vital stories like Anya's.